We're going to talk about how to find abdominal bracing as well as a deep pelvic floor contraction. So when we're talking about the core, I want you to think about it as a canister. And the bottom of your canister is your pelvis, and the top of your canister is the rib cage. And we want to try to maintain pressure within that canister throughout our functional movements to help control things like pain, potentially leaking, and just create a general sense of stability throughout our trunk. So it's really important that we find that canister in a neutral position. So the bottom of the canister should line up with the top of the canister and not be too overextended and open this way or closed off the other way. And this is what we call pelvic neutral. So when we go to contract our abdominals, we want to start in that pelvic neutral position. So my back is just ever so slightly arched away from the floor. I can fit about one hand underneath. If I was flattened to the floor, my canister would kind of crunch down in the center. And on the other end, if I was arched away from the floor, the top of my canister would kind of pop open. So we want to try to maintain that position. Now we want to go ahead and activate and create pressure within that core canister. So we're going to start from the bottom, which is the base of our pelvic floor. And what I want you to do here is imagine that you have to go to the bathroom really bad, but you can't make it, so you have to hold your pee. The other way that I describe this sounds a little weird, but it works really well if you think about sucking a tampon up. And that will help you find that contraction of what it feels like to get that pelvic floor activated. That's step one. Step two, you're going to take where these hip bones are, and I want you to imagine drawing them in closer together. Now they're not physically going to move anywhere, but it's just this idea of cinching that waist in while you maintain that pelvic floor contraction. And if you do put your fingers right on the inside of that hip bone, you should feel that muscle pop right up into your finger. This is the deepest layer of the core activating, called your transverse abdominis. Lastly, we want to get the outer muscles to activate as well. So the third piece to this is imagining that you've got a toddler that comes and runs and jumps on your stomach, and you kind of want to brace for impact and make sure that they don't hurt you. So that's the last piece. So I do pelvic floor contraction first, or that Kegel, sucking the tampon as I call it, pulling those hip bones in closer together, and then imagining that toddler's coming to jump on my belly, and now I have a core activation all the way throughout my trunk, and anywhere that I kind of press with my fingers, I can feel that activation. Now, when I first teach this, I kind of do it in those 3 steps, but the idea is that you are able to activate all of those muscles simultaneously kind of at the same time. So with more practice, you'll get better at being able to kind of do all of that in one contraction. And then I want you to practice this in a variety of positions. Coming to hands and knees is a great way to practice it, and just drawing that belly in, tightening all those muscles. And then even taking that a step further, practicing it in standing, and especially with those functional movements like a squat or a deadlift. And that should help you try to build a little bit more core stability.